These five people here are accused of inciting mass protests in Shiite areas of the Sunni ruled kingdom. What kind of work were they trying to do exactly?
Well, these five individuals, including, as you mentioned, female activists, were simply participating in anti government protests in the aftermath of the Arab Spring. These protests and their participation was largely peaceful, and they're also being accused of spreading anti government opinions online on social media. Now, the public prosecutor, as mentioned, has recommended for them to be beheaded. And this is simply atrocious and appalling because what they've been accused of obviously are not recognizable crimes, nor does it meet international standards. And we're calling on the Saudi Arabian authorities to immediately drop these plans for them to be sentenced to death. I think the other noteworthy thing here is that one of the activists is, of course, Isra al-Ghumgham, who is a female activist who is known to have spread her opinions online that are against the government lines. Uh, she would be the first ever woman to be sentenced to death simply for peacefully participating in anti-government protests. It's simply atrocious and it needs to be condemned internationally.
Sama, what kind of reaction has there been from inside Saudi Arabia to this woman who's now on death row?
Well, it's hard to determine because Saudi Arabian media tends to be quite pro-government. And there is this climate of fear at the moment in the kingdom where activists, but also simply your average person, is too scared to speak up. Since we've seen, this wave of arrests of not only Shia activists but also women human rights defenders most recently, people are simply too afraid to speak out against these human rights abuses and to really speak out against the government. And this is really largely due to the government cracking down on any form of dissent in the kingdom. It's quite appalling and really does require allies of Saudi Arabia to publicly criticize not only these recommended death sentences, but also the ongoing arrests of activists.
But would that be enough? Would public criticism from allies of Saudi Arabia be enough to stop this?
Well, it's absolutely needed. And what we're seeing now is a complete silence from European governments, from governments that have traditionally spoken out against the death penalty and promoted women's rights. These governments have unfortunately chosen to remain silent and prioritize their security and economic deals over championing human rights internationally. It's really important that the government of Saudi Arabia feels this pressure from their allies and the international community.